All right, welcome to Fullcourt Passport. I'm Ric Bucher. That's Bostjan Nachbar. And our special guest today, one Zaza Pachulia, is the basketball operations consultant for the Golden State Warriors. I can say that's the first time I've heard that title. I want to hear more about it. Also, a three-time NBA champion, twice as a player, once as an executive. He was a champion before he got to the NBA, won the Turkish League, was also a Turkish Cup winner, 16-year NBA veteran as a second-round pick, and also has the dubious honor of having a rule named after him, the Zaza rule in the NBA. And Zaza, welcome to the show.
Thanks. By the way, you didn't mention we got the two rules, not one, two.
What's the other one?
The All-Star voting.
Ah, yes, that's right.
Hey, explain the All-Star rule. I don't know about that one. What's the rule?
So All-Star rule is that when Georgians lost their minds and start voting for me to make it an All-Star. I think it was 2015, 16 year. Or started 14, 15, and then 15, 16. So 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So I think I was like 13,000 votes shy to make the All-Star. And that's when NBA decided like we need to do something because we cannot let fans to dictate who's going to be an All-Star.
Yeah.
So that's when, before it was like 100% fans.
Right.
And then after that, they changed it to 50% fans, 25% media, and 25% the GMs, right? So, yeah, that's because my Georgians were on it.
So which rule do you take the most pleasure in having named after you?
Any success is a success, Rick. So I'll take both, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Also, so I have to ask you, basketball operations consultant. I see you around the arena all the time. What is it that you do for the Warriors? What are your responsibilities?
Let me start from the beginning first. Like when I retired and joined the Warriors, I was doing everything, like literally everything, because I really wanted to get into the details, get to know the different departments, not only basketball side, the business side as well, because you already know that Warriors has the biggest team. We have more than 600 employees, and especially after opening Chase Center, they now are in operations also, and it's a big company. And I just wanted to connect the dots and start spending time with different departments. And I was doing everything. And then I started like eliminating the things that I didn't enjoy as much. Now basically I represent the business side to the basketball and basketball department to the business side. So I sit on the leadership meetings and I'm sitting the senior leadership meetings, spending a lot of time with our corporate partnership team. And spending time with the ownership group, spending time with the young players that we're drafting, and kind of educate them about the business of basketball.
Yeah,
and just being a resource for anyone.
So
I love it.
In the front office, you're a lot like you were as a player. You're the connective tissue. You're like putting everybody in the right place.
You can say that. You can say that. I'm setting strings. I'm still setting the strings.
That's right. That's right. Exactly right.
And having teammates like Boki, all they have to do is like get wide open shots.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
you do all the work.
Like one of your first claims to fame was you got into it with Kevin Garnett. How did American players approach international players then versus maybe the way it is now?
That's a really good question. And I'm pretty sure it's more respect right now. Because I think here's the thing, respect doesn't come overnight. It's been consistent, in my opinion. This league had international good players. And, throughout the consistency, you're going to start earning the respect. and acceptance, I think, from not only players, but from media, from the front office, and from the fans. So it's been beautiful to see because at the end of the day, this game is global.
Okay, so did you know when you came to the NBA that you were going to be tested the way that you were, or that you were going to have to sort of prove that you belonged?
I think it's everywhere. Whatever you do, Rick, especially on the highest level, you're going to get tested, and the testing is every single day. And one thing from this angle, from this lens, I'm looking at it. You have to deliver. You have to earn the playing time, earn the respect, earn the spot every single day. That's what I tell my kids. Nothing is given, and success is not owned; it's rented, and you gotta pay the dues every single day. And that's their life. I'll tell you even more. Like now, seeing some of the young players, especially first rookie year, they kind of set the some baseline, I would say. And some of them think that's they expect the next year to year two to be better and to play more minutes, right? And to have more touches and more shooting, right? More plays for them. But they forget the one very, very important thing. When you show up in a training camp, you should actually show the coach and prove the coach that you're ready for it, right? Because, if you don't, you cannot just expect, that to happen itself. And then when year three comes, training camp, you're in the same spot. You gotta prove it. You're gonna earn it, right? So nothing is given, and that's what I tell my kids. And unfortunately, a lot of players make those mistakes. And looking back, I think that I realize, especially where I came from, that's how I was raised, basically, right? Even at home or playing professionally when I was 16 years old for Ülker Istanbul team. I was the youngest player, so every single day, every single practice meant a lot for me. That's how it was. Those couple extra minutes, because if I had, if I practiced really well with the team day before, right? So I think the European culture definitely helped me to prepare for mentally, not only physically but mentally as well, to prepare me for this war and on these levels.
But I think the next wave that we see now is coaches and executives, right? But also we see Europeans stepping into executive roles, which to me is even more interesting. What do you think this international flavor, if you want to call it, can bring to the office, to the executive office, to the front office in the NBA?
Boki, you know better than anyone that this is a copycat league. It's as soon as the one of those teams going to show the success on and off the court, that's going to translate to for us to see more international executives and coaches in the league. That's how it works, right? So, and again, I think that side is going through exactly what the basketball went through. Talking about consistency, talking about those teams succeeding, not only making the playoffs, but hoping to winning, right? So, and as soon as that happens, then you're going to see more international off the court side. So I'm a huge believer of that, and that's how this league has been all the time. But at the end of the day, I like it. I like the mix, right? So of course you have locals, you have Europeans, you have international folks out there, and you see that teams are focusing on more and more team stuff, right? So we understand. Team breakfast, team lunch, team dinner, team everything is done as a team, and I think the teams are appreciating to have that more to build a good chemistry in the locker room, obviously, and then it translates on the court.
Who do you point to among the executives or the team that you feel has done the most to promote the involvement of internationals in the front office?
Spurs done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, throughout the years and generations, right? So I think they were one of the first ones who had this belief in international squad, and they saw the saw the success as well, and they showed us the success, right? So Denver have done a good job, and those executives are moving from one team to another, so they take. They learn, and so that's why it takes time with the pro, it takes time as well.
Well, with that in mind, with all the things that you've accomplished, what do you take the most pride in that you've accomplished in basketball?
I've been thinking about. I thought about it actually, Rick. That's a really good question. We can mention so many things, but I'll tell you one thing though. Like I think, end of the day, this is what matters the most. Nothing else. I gave everything I had to basketball. And, I fell in love in this game when I was young, very, very young. And my mom used to be a basketball player. So, just like the love for the game started within the family. I picked up the basketball when I was 9 years old. And until I retired, I give everything. From discipline, work ethic to learn from the mistakes I've made, and I try to work as hard as possible and play as hard as possible, be a good teammate, and learn from amazing coaches and teammates I had, and be a good friend. And I lasted until I was 35, and it was a beautiful journey. It was an amazing journey, and looking back, like I really cannot say that I wish I've sacrificed more or I've worked harder. Like I give everything I had. So I think that kind of fulfills you and, just makes you pride, in my opinion. And Klay Thompson said it once. I remember his words, like you give everything you have to a game and you live with the results. And, fortunately, 16 years, 2 championships, so many playoff appearances. And I met so many people, and Boki is one of them, right? So we never played together, but like I call him a friend, and that's the most important thing, man. It's just like having friends that we're on the same page, we have something in common, and then when I go to Spain, I know who to call, and when he comes see in Bay Area, he knows who to call. And I just hosted Vladimir Radvanovic, and I'm telling you, like. It was the most amazing feeling to have this guy, in Bay Area for a couple of days. I mean, those moments are priceless.
I think you said it right, Zaza. I think, Rick, when we were putting together the list of guests, and I think you mentioned Zaza, and you said, "Hey, dude, keep in touch with Zaza." And I think my response back to you was like, "I don't have to keep in touch," meaning I have to text Zaza every week to say how you're doing, but. If he needs something, if I need something, it's come almost like a brotherhood with players, internationals who've been in the NBA that you can always call up that guy and you can ask for a favor or whatever, right? Of course, some guys are more open and some guys are less too, but it definitely feels like we have something in common, especially that generation that was kind of, I would call it maybe the second generation. The first one, like you mentioned, Zaza was like Dražen Petrovic, Vlade Divac and those guys in the 90s. And then the 2000s was kind of like where we came in, and I think that's a special bond for sure. But Zaza, since you mentioned also, your beginning, starting with 9 years, can you maybe just quickly talk about the beginning itself? Like I assume Georgia, like where you started and moved to Turkey?
Yeah, Boki, to talk about my childhood, there is nothing much to say because it was darkness. We didn't have power, so it was pretty darkness, but I was actually able to, still find a way to practice and keep getting better. And, I was in love with this game, right? So I give a lot of credit to my first coach. I mean, without him, nothing was possible in my opinion, because this guy found a way how to motivate us and, for us to fall in love with the process, right? For not only game, but just the process itself, even though we have no windows, and seriously, when we were in the 90s, we just got, independence, right? So in 1991, we got from Soviet Union. So it was tough times in Georgia, right? I'm forever grateful for him because the reason why I'm sitting here is because of him. And,
what was the name? What was the name of the coach? Just to kind of have the name out there.
Coach Zura.
Okay.
Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago, and I actually flew there for the funeral and wanted to final goodbye. And we have this tradition where after the funeral, everyone and all the family members, the friends, and people that are been knowing Zura, Coach Zura, we gathered together. They gave me a microphone and they asked me to say a couple words, and it was tough. It was emotional, and I was not expecting this. But one thing actually I told everyone, I said, like, we can cry here, we can be sad, and to how we lost a human being. Their age doesn't matter. Whenever you lose someone, it's always tough. But I actually thanked him in front of everyone. I mean, because the work he has done, and he inspired so many people, like myself, like young people. He basically dedicated all his life to this game, and people like himself. And when you look at him, he touched and he changed the life of so many young people. Right, could have gone to different directions. So forever grateful for that man. Yeah, I was 14 when I moved to Georgia. I mean, to Turkey from Georgia, and that was a huge step because it was impossible to play professional basketball in those kind of circumstances, right? Where country was, it took some time, a couple of years for country to figure out, how to live without having a big boss, right? So, and sport definitely needed that kind of the help, and so Turkey was awesome. I mean, Turkey is still one of the best leagues. And I got so lucky to end up there, played there for almost 6 years. Started with the youth program, and then gradually got promoted. So I was 16 actually when I got called up for the professional team, A team, where I had pretty amazing teammates, and Joseph Blair, who is the head coach of the Houston's G League team, Vipers, and Melvin Booker, Devin Booker's dad. So. Yes,
so, I remember both great players, both in the highest level in Europe. Yeah.
And those are international players. And also Mark Pope was the teammate. Now he's coaching the college, and he's done an amazing job in the coaching side as well. And then also we had some amazing Turkish players like Harun Erdinay, Howard Kültürüm. Those guys not only play in Ülker, but they've also played in the national team. So really good squad, and I was so lucky in the veterans too. So I was so lucky to be with them, and even for me, the practice was everything, because going against these guys, and Boki, in Europe, we practice twice a day, for me, I was treating it as a game because as a young guy, you were not necessarily getting too much of the playing time. So, and then plus we were playing EuroLeague, we were pretty consistently making top 16. We never made it Final Four, but it was considered one of the better teams out there.
Before we let you go, I'm just curious. You mentioned the darkness, the literal darkness that you grew up in. Describe what it was like, the conditions, where you were learning to play basketball in those early years.
Rick, when it's dark, you're limited to some of the things you can do. Definitely cannot watch TV or play the PlayStation. So we were really limited, and honestly, sometimes I miss those times because when you have too many options, you think a lot. So. But like I said, like the love for the game is so important. That's why I keep right now when I talk to the young people, I always tell them, find something that you truly, truly love. Really find something that you're obsessed with, right? That's what happened to me. I fell in love with this game and in process. And I'm forever thankful to my parents, obviously, because that's where first love, the seed was, planted. And then obviously I got so lucky. I mentioned the Coach Sura. Every single day that seed was, getting bigger and bigger, and just like my heart and my soul was fulfilled with basketball. Of course, it was not the easiest, journey or, career, because yes, I had to deal with some not playing times and, coming on the bench, or when I was actually 13 years old, I was left out from the cadets national team. I was one of the two players that then was, left out at last minute, and that was painful. I was hurt, but instead of kind of giving up, actually gave me more hunger, to prove these guys that they made the wrong decision. Right, I was able to mentally kind of help myself and be stronger and find a way. Those kind of things were motivating me basically, right? So again, this is coming from the parents of being done it. My dad was a wrestler, by the way, so both parents were athletes. So imagine having them around and seeing their only son going through this,
Yeah.
right? Like loving me and just feeling bad. It was just like they would tell me that this was part of the life.
Did you
Right.
did you go to Turkey at 14 by yourself?
First, my dad came with me, because I was still young, and back then going from one country to another country was not as common, and it
Yeah.
was a big deal. Now, literally now we can decide, hey, just flights, Mexico to Canada or some neighbor countries, and that's not a problem. You can do it, but back then it was a big deal. So first, my dad came, and then my dad passed away, unfortunately, and then my mom replaced him. But then she realized that I was so busy, Rick. Like my schedule was like literally 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I had no time even to think about some negativity, some craziness, because you had to practice before the school. You would go to the school, and then right after the school, you had another 2 practices after that, and then I would come at home exhausted, and this was happening every day. This was my life, So my mom said, you don't need me here because you literally don't have any time, to do some crazy things. So she went back.
You lost your dad after you made the move to Turkey in those early years?
Yes. Then 6 months after we moved in Turkey, he passed away from heart attack. It was hard, but still, like those kind of moments where it made me grow up and get more mature than because I was already making a couple $100 a month, and just it was pressure, but same time pressure of there is no plan B, there's only plan A, to make him proud and just to be the man and take care of my mom and take care of my career, my life, and don't do anything stupid, right?
Before we really let you go, because we got sidetracked earlier, I want to just really quickly touch on the national team of Georgia. I think I mentioned before, but we got sidetracked, and national team now being led by Toko Shengelia, who's also the president of the EuroLeague Player Association. Is one of the most, I would say, stand up, honest, respected men I've met in my life. An incredible guy. Can you just talk a little bit about the Georgia national team and the success they had over the summer, because it's been a big thing in Europe on how the progress the team has made compared to previous years.
Yeah, Toko is my family member, Boki. You know that he's married to my cousin. So, I've been knowing Toko since literally he was a kid, and the relationship Toko and I have, that's the relationship Toko's dad and I had. It's kind of in this generational thing, and it's most beautiful thing actually. I play with Toko. Obviously, he was a young fella in our team, and he would see the things we were going through, and how we would approach with love and with all the seriousness, and we were all in going back home and representing the national team. So he's done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, leading the team and always being there. Some of the crazy things, he would play EuroLeague game and then fly right after the game, and next day he would be on the court with the Georgia national team jersey. And I was like, how you do that, man? It's like kind of playing back to back, but imagine the circumstances not the same in Europe, right? So you don't.
No,
necessarily
it's 2 teams. It's 2 teams. You play on pro team. You have one set of plays, one set of motivation, if you want to say so. From what I know, Toko took his own. I mean, he paid for a charter flight to get to the next city, next country, the next day to be able to put on a different jersey, play for a national team with a different coach, different team, different set of plays. I mean, it just tells a lot, Rick, about the dedication some people have to national teams, and that's why I say he's one of the guys that I don't think many can compare to when it comes to devotion he has to the game and to the national team. So
yeah, and unfortunately, Boki, we don't talk enough about this because end of the day, it's a dedication, the love, and respect he shows to everyone else, and I'm super proud of him, and and grateful for him because he inspires the next. He inspired my kids, for example. Honestly, like we watch the game from here, and tell my kids, like, this is what Toko did, right? Imagine what's happening in their hearts, right? So I'm so proud of him, and I'm grateful for him to lead this way and being, inspiration and role model for the next generations of basketball players in Georgia. No load management for him, right? So he's a true example of what the professional athlete should, especially representing your country. Like, those guys don't have too much luxury of watching this caliber of player in person, a whole lot, and he's always there. And then guess what? Not only he makes on the court, but then you see on the court he's diving for the ball, and he just doing his best. And the success you mentioned, the Georgia national team had recently in the World Cup or last European Championship, right? So it's because of his leadership, and it's not easy. Georgians are can be crazy, but having the good leader and right leader, brings things together, and then you end up seeing this kind of success. So again, Toko is a special person.
I'd say that the passion and the dedication that international players still have to the game that is born in them is what it makes them so valuable as part of the NBA. Because the NBA can kind of get lost in the business of it and the glamour and the glitz. And I would say that international players seemed, whether it's front office coaching or on the floor, are reminding everyone what brought them to the game in the first place, which was that love for competition and creating something together. And Zaza, you've done that for us today here on Fullcourt Passport, coming and joining us. And so I know I speak for both Boki and myself. I appreciate you taking the time and giving us the insight. And I know that you'll be in touch with Boki, and I know I will see you around the Warriors. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, guys, and I love what you guys doing. Keep helping us, to listen as many great stories as possible. So I'm following, and you guys are the best.
Thank you, Zaza. Man, I would love to dig into. I think that's something, Boki, that, and you probably experienced it too. People don't quite appreciate how far international players have come, both collectively and individually, in terms of where they started and how they learned the game. Yeah. And he gave you just a glimpse of that.
I think, and I don't want to speak down to the current generation of players, not at all. I mean, if anything, these guys now are more skilled and better than we ever were. But I still think that generation that I mentioned earlier of the 90s and 2000s are a generation of players that went through these changes, the political changes a lot in Europe, especially the eastern part of Europe, and what we went through, where one day you're basically, living in one country, and you wake up the next day you're living in a different country, and then the wars happen, and seeing that, including myself, going through the war in ex-Yugoslavia as a 10-year-old kid, like, these things will change you, and these things will stay with you forever. And I think that they're gonna make you who you are today as a person. And you can relate a lot of things, whether you like it or not, to sports as well. And that's why I think Zaza mentioning that, like, playing in darkness, like, whatever that meant for him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it just had to do with electricity. It has to do with
no. I wasn't. Right? I just wanted to get kind of understand what he meant by that, and he never quite went there. But you can imagine, like,
there's a lot. There's a lot, and I think that's something that international players, especially that generation, has brought with them into sports, into basketball, into NBA, if you want to go that far. And I think there's, I don't want to sound weird, but there's value there, with people who have experienced that. So it's great to see that Zaza still appreciates and cherishes this part of his upbringing.
Well, that's what I find fascinating about kind of the shift with the NBA and the involvement of international players. I feel as if that hunger and that desire and that experience of escaping from really tough conditions, like, that was early on for Black players coming into the NBA. that's what they brought to the league and to the game. And now it feels like that's what international players have experienced that more recently, right?
Yeah, but I would say it's a combination of both. One, it's could be called an escape to a better life, right? Maybe.
Yep.
But I think the other thing was also the appeal of the basketball and specifically of the NBA in the late 90s or early 2000s when basketball first became available to us, especially in the 90s. Like my first real NBA game that I actually had like on a Betamax tape back home, not even VHS, like the one before was the Lakers. One game out of the finals, the Lakers and the Bulls. I think it was 91 finals.
Yeah.
And I had like
first Jordan's first.
There you go. And I had like one of those games in the final. I think it was 91. Okay, it doesn't matter. But it was the final Lakers Bulls, and I had one of those finals games on a Betamax tape that I probably saw a million times. But my point is that's the first time we saw NBA. So that, and I wasn't the only one. Like a whole generation, that's what we saw. Like, hey, there's a basketball world out there that is so much bigger than what we have here, right?
Yeah.
And then the show behind it and the stars behind it and all that. So you combine that with the upbringing. I think it was maybe like a perfect recipe for success almost for a lot of players, you know?
Yeah.
Besides the work ethic and the great basketball school and basketball history that we have. So no wonder that basketball in those last 20, 30 years has progressed to what it is today, internationally speaking.
Right. So we talked to Zaza about the inclusion of international players now as international coaches and executives. And I had a chance to catch up with one of those, Tuomas Iisalo, the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies now, one of two head coaches in the NBA, along with Thiago Splitter in Portland, that spent a year coaching in the EuroLeague with Paris basketball. Both spent 1 year there. And I was interested to find out from Tuomas what it meant to have, or why we had two guys come from Paris basketball, and what it's like to be a international that is now a head coach in the NBA. As you said, there's only a handful. These are the pioneers when it comes to that. So this is the conversation that I had with Tuomas.
There are now two NBA head coaches who previously worked for Paris basketball with Thiago in Portland. Is that just coincidence, or is there something about Paris basketball and the organization and the way that you play that has prepared you guys to be NBA head coaches?
I mean, I think it's somewhat of a coincidence that it's me and Thiago, but we did have a lot of communication also last year. He took over a team and a group that I had coached for several years, and it was just interesting, talking about our mutual experiences. And I think there's the fact that David Kahn is the president of that club, and he's obviously been in the NBA for a long time, has a lot of connections here. And I think that also Paris being a city that where a lot of, I think, NBA gravitate towards, also not just for the NBA games, but also for scouting young prospects in the French league. It's a good showcase for coaches too.
And what is the biggest challenge, whether it's cultural or technical, in the difference between coaching in the EuroLeague and coaching in the NBA?
Biggest difference is the lack of preparation time. So that's something, starting with the preseason, you have a couple of weeks, get everything to mesh. Where in Europe, you would be dealing with 4, 5, even 6 weeks, depending on the level you're playing at. And then same thing continues throughout the season because games are back to back the whole time and really very little time to practice. So you have to get through to the team through video, through job crews. It's a different type of training, a different type of ecosystem.
Last one. Do you feel any sort of responsibility or pride, whatever it might be, being a foreign-born, foreign-developed coach and forging this way into the NBA?
For sure, I feel both of those. I feel like I'm an ambassador of the European basketball and Finnish basketball, and just trying to do the best I can in the position that I've been granted. And I've always had high expectations, high standards for myself, and that hasn't changed in this position. And feel very honored to be part of the few European coaches in the NBA.
So when you hear that, Boki, what's the first thing that jumps out at you?
I mean, the first thing is I remember the way people spoke about the style that was played in Paris basketball, and to me, that's why it's not so surprising that Tuomas Iisalo made the jump to the NBA and is now being a head coach in the NBA, because it was such a standout type of basketball. Even before that, like when he was in Bonn in Germany and had success there, everybody spoke about how his teams play different, an up-tempo style of basketball for European standards. I would say guard dominant, but in a positive way. And he's a coach that changed the way teams approach today. Some of the teams, at least, approach the game in basketball in EuroLeague: play faster, play more open, play early shots. Keep the other team under pressure. And I spoke to some players recently. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want them to sound bad, but they said to me, the hardest team to keep up with and nobody's close is still Paris this year, even though they moved on from not just Iisalo, but also from Thiago. They said these guys don't change. Like what's been instilled there in that basketball club still happens today. They've changed players. They've lost players recently. TJ Shorts left, and Tyson Ward, who was an important part, he left, went to Olympiacos. TJ Shorts went to Panathinaikos. But those guys still play the same way. And players tell me, like, I'm in great conditioned player, but it's hard to breathe against those guys. So
that's interesting.
I think that's a part of it that makes it special. And he, Coach Iisalo is the one that instilled that in Paris basketball.
Yeah. There's two things that jumped out at me from that conversation. The first one is that Thiago and Tuomas compared notes, that they had a conversation about coming to the NBA. And it speaks to what you and Zaza said about this connection with international players. If you make it to the NBA, that there's this feeling we're kind of all in this together.
Yeah.
And the fact that that Tuomas, I'm sure, sort of gave him some pointers and some insight into this is what it's like to hold that position. As much as Thiago had already been an assistant coach, it's different when you move into that and move over those 30 inches, right, into the new seat. The other thing was that the lack of preparation that you have in the NBA versus EuroLeague. And I find that particularly interesting because of the style of play that he's trying to incorporate with the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think a lot of teams are trying to get there, which is more player ball movement, which is a more complicated way to play. Mm-hmm. And to be effective doing that, you really need practice time. Yep. Like it can't be just through the game. And I think that's going to be the question. Like, if teams want to play that style, how are you going to be able to do that without creating more prep time and more practice time?
I want to make it very clear. I'm not a coach. I never was a coach at the highest level. But I think it has to do a lot with choosing the right personnel as a start. I think not every player fits into what they're trying to do. That's number one. Number two, sure, you need practice time, but it's not like in Europe they had one game a week. I mean, it was much more than that, So many more games than that, right? So it's not like they had a week to prepare before each game. It's still very up-tempo and very, very difficult to play. So he was successful there. And I think whether some personnel changes, and I'm not trying to insinuate anything here regarding personnel changes in Memphis, but I'm just saying, like, you need to have a specific type of players to be able to buy into it.
Not insinuating anything, but you're kind of
Hey,
We all know the situation there.
I'm just saying, I think you need a specific type of players and people to be successful in this. And this system can be very successful. It's been proven at the highest level.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is that if I talk to NBA guys, like former NBA players, they will tell you, oh, you know what, this new style, it's not going to work. The NBA, your stars have to dominate the ball. They have to do that through the course of the season to be ready for the playoffs. That's the way it's always been. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to newer generation and international players, they're like, no, this kind of way works. And I think that Oklahoma City has adopted the new way, and it's going to push the entire league. As Zaza said, it's a copycat league. It's going to push everybody in that direction. And what I'm going to find interesting, Boki, is do players coming up now, are they going to approach learning the game and playing the game in a different style if they want to play in the NBA because of this shift?
I think if this shift becomes a real thing in the sense that that's how NBA is going to be played in the next years, I think players will have no choice than to do that. I think it's kind of similar. I mean, it's a different comparison, but I mean, it's a tough comparison, but still bear with me. It's kind of like when NBA went away from traditional low post, big guys playing into like open style and having big shoot threes. Mm-hmm. Like you had to adapt if you wanted to play in the NBA. That's it. If you were a 7 feet guy that was just slow and just low post player that couldn't run and couldn't shoot, like the NBA game wasn't for you.
Make it.
And same is going to be here. You're going to have to adjust to the newer style of the NBA. NBA is the league that develops. EuroLeague is the league that develops the style of play. Like as a young player, you have to adjust to that. You have to learn to play like this, or you're just simply not a player for this level.
Yeah, I pray that it moves in that direction.
Yeah,
that's the beauty for me. That's the beauty of the game.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so game of the week, we had Milan versus Olympiacos, 88. Milan 88, Olympiacos 87. It wasn't quite that close.
Yeah, the result maybe makes it look or seem closer than it was, but the game was still very, I think, exciting and very intense. Milano won now 4 in a row. Milan is a team.
They both came in at having won 3 in a row.
Yeah, so both teams feeling good. Milan now won 4 in a row. It's a team that has changed. Nikola Mirotic left in the summer, who was their big player. So it's a team that is still, kind of trying to find its way, but now winning 4 in a row and playing in Milan is a super organized club. Coach Messina has been there a long time. Previously, obviously, a coach who's been in the NBA, assistant coach with Spurs, Lakers, and it's a club that players really enjoy playing for, is what I heard. And it's good to see that they're having now success. People are like, we have been waiting for Milan to make that step and to become a powerhouse, so to say. Olympiacos, on the other hand, first of all, I have to mention Keenan Evans' injury. It's a player that was out for, I believe, more than a year and a half, sustained serious injuries in the past, came back previous game against Žalgiris and injured basically in the first moment of the game for his Achilles. So everybody is with him and is hoping for the best and wishes him recovery and that he comes back and he gets to play again. Great guy and great player. So I think Milan players, it was really, I spoke to a couple of guys on the team. They were really shocked about this. Like this having a teammate that battled for a year and a half to come back, and then this happened. But anyways, in the game, Olympiacos was trailing 5-6 points the whole game, made it seem like they could turn around. Yeah. It
went to 15 in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter.
Came back and had a little bit of a chance to turn around and possibly win. Alec Peters, Tyler Dorsey both had incredible shooting games, scored, I think, 52 points between them. But Milano was able to win. And we have such incredible parity in EuroLeague now. And that was just one other game that shows that anybody can beat anybody at any given moment. And that's what makes EuroLeague very special.
Well, I also felt like Milan's playing at home, and they had this game. I don't want to say meant more to them, but it was more important. They winning that game. They're now tied for 7th in the standings with 4 teams at 6 and 5. Olympiacos, I think, is 4th right now, and I just at times it felt like Milan played with a little more desperation.
Yeah. It's, especially when a lot of times when you play at home and a big team comes into town, like you'll have that extra energy, extra lift, and it definitely felt that way.
The other thing was for American fans who aren't familiar, and I'm following EuroLeague obviously much closer than I have in the past. I always kept tabs on the former NBA players that were over there, right? But it's gone to a new level, and I just have to tell you, like when I stepped back and I'm like, oh wait a minute, Milan has a player named Armani Brooks. How good is that? Like that's perfect. And then Nico Mannion, who was with the Warriors, as a draft pick, and he looks like he's 10 years older than when I saw him with the Santa Cruz Warriors and the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. And then who knew Devin Booker is playing for Milan?
Yeah,
not the same Devin Booker, 6'9" center played at Clemson, went undrafted, 34 years old, has been playing in Europe forever. But it was like, this is for someone like diving into EuroLeague now, there is so much flavor there in a variety of ways that has an NBA connection, but at the same time, it's what I look forward to in terms of talking to players, American players who are playing overseas now, because especially those that are getting their first taste of it, right? Like I really diving into it. The more I dive into it, the more I appreciate EuroLeague and everything that it presents. And I look forward to talking to American players to see if they're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. No, we're definitely going to do that in the near future. And it is true. I mean, the ties between NBA and EuroLeague in that sense are undeniable. I mean, there's, just only in this game, there's, Guduric, who is a player that played in Memphis before. On the other side, you have Sasha Vezenko, who played in the NBA. Alec Peters played in the NBA. Tyler Dorsey was there for a little while. I'm probably forgetting some names, but there's
Evan Fournier.
Fournier, right? Yeah. So I mean, it's NBA players all over. When these players come to the league, the talent that they bring and the experience they bring, the excitement they bring, it's there. And like I mentioned before, the parity you have and the competitiveness, makes it very interesting to follow. Yeah. We'll definitely continue to do that week to week.
Well, it's the fusion. It's the fusion of the talent coming over. And Donatas Monteunis, who we had on, talked about how if you want to be successful, you can't come over and think everybody's going to cater to you. You have to meet people at least halfway. You have to meet the organizations and the culture and the cities and the fans. Like, you have to accommodate them. You have to adjust your style of play and thinking and mentality to fit your new environment. And I love seeing that fusion. Right. I love seeing that talent utilized in a different way, learning how to play the game in a different way, and enjoying and appreciating the new thing that is created.
True. But I will say this, the style that you mentioned that is played here is not for everyone. There have been players before, NBA players, who haven't made it in EuroLeague just because it's different, more team oriented, different type of pressure. The game is slower. It's more difficult to, attack, penetrate. There's a lot of penetration, kickouts, movement, a lot of zone, if you want to call it, not zone like this, but players will clog up the paint. So it's not for everyone. On the other side, you have players who went to the NBA, couldn't make it there, and they come back here and they're stars in EuroLeague just because their game fits more the style of European basketball. So there's still a lot of differences, in between the two, and it's a different beast. It's a different beast.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think I appreciate the guys that are able to make that adjustment.
Yes.
It came up in a different, playing the game in a different way. And then they go to Europe and they're asked to play in a different way, and they make that adjustment. They learn how to do that. And vice versa. Like, international players coming to the NBA and doing the same thing. It's
and as Josh Childress mentioned a couple of episodes ago, it's about embracing the culture. It's about emerging into the where you are. You know, you can't close yourself off and think you're going to be successful. It's about opening up yourself. It's about being willing to accept or to invite the culture, the environment to you, and to kind of mesh, you know, and all that. I think it starts there, and players that realize that early on and do that have definitely bigger chance to be successful in Europe, and vice versa.
Yep. Well, that's the whole point of this particular podcast, this particular show, is to illustrate that fusion and that connectivity between the NBA and the international game. And Zaza Pachulia helped us do that with this episode. You always help me with that with every episode, Bostjan. So again, always great to see you, and we will do this again next week.
See you soon.